Joining us right now, always great to talk with him. Charles Allen is the Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of the Board of BTCS Incorporated. Hey, Charles, for people who were tuning in for the very first time, and our viewership always changes. We're bringing new viewers and listeners on board weekly. If you can, give us the nickel version, break down the Ethereum model for our viewers who really have never heard anything like that before.
So I guess when you're asking the Ethereum model, we're talking what Ethereum does. I can kind of give a quickie on my company. Yeah. So Ethereum is the number 2 blockchain by market cap, and unlike Bitcoin, it's programmable. So you can deploy assets on top of it with smart contracts or rules. So think of it as programmable money or assets, and those assets could be stable coins like the US dollar, real estate, stock certificates, etc. And it's pretty exciting that it allows for the transaction and settlement of basically any tokenized asset globally, 365. That's remarkable without an intermediary. So that's the quick and dirty on Ethereum. BTCS, we're an Ethereum focused company that are building within its blockchain ecosystem. So we stake, we are a block builder, and we're deploy into liquidity pools. So it's pretty exciting business, somewhat complex, but doing great on the fundamental side.
Hey, Charles, I wanted to ask you, you've been on a few times before and we've talked about the Clarity Act because it's had kind of, it passed, I believe, in the House and then it was at the Senate or vice versa. But I know that this is a long phrase, but the U.S. Senate Committee of Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs just issued a national security brief recently, I think in the last few days. And I can't tell, if it's a good thing or a bad thing. And they're just, I think, saying, raising some red flags with passing the Clarity Act. And I want to think that regulation is a good thing in this realm. But talk to me about how that affects Ethereum and how you're seeing this play out.
Well, I think Ethereum would be the biggest beneficiary of the Clarity Act. Bitcoin is not programmable money. It's just a digital asset like gold. So it's not, you can't really build on it. Where we are with the Clarity Act, I mean, who knows? If you'd asked me a month ago, I said it's looking very, highly probable. Now it seems like it's not going to, hit the floor in the Senate to get the needed 60 votes before the election. So probably is going to get kicked. I think on the positive side, though, there's been support now from both sides of the industry, which is something we hadn't seen before. So initially you had two sides. You had the large crypto players like the Coinbases of the world, and then JP Morgan on the other side, the traditional financial players that were kind of weren't on the same page on a bunch of things. And as it's come to this head point with, is it going to get through the Senate, we've seen the traditional financial players start to get behind the Clarity Act. So even if it doesn't get done in this cycle as after the election, I think it's going to be pretty bipartisan because you have industry support on both sides, and the ethics provision, which was something that was prior concern, seems like there's been some potential resolutions there.
Charles Allen is the Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of the Board of BTCS Incorporated. Of course, they are a crypto-native, revenue-generating Ethereum infrastructure company. Boy, that is a lot on a T-shirt, Charles. But it's impressive, and it's you have a company right now in the midst of what is very, very exciting, not only for our nation but worldwide, as the blockchain and Ethereum and Bitcoin and stuff like that kind of creeps more and more across the landscape. As far as the adoption or people basically understanding it, is it just a matter of, hey, roll up your sleeves, get into it, make yourself knowledgeable about it, and maybe the younger generation that's coming after us, they've got a quicker hook on it than we do?
Or just to say, do we not even need to understand? I believe you've talked about that before. Maybe I don't need to understand.
Yeah, can I put it in? Can I put it in autopilot and just go?
Yeah, it's going to show up on my phone. I'll be like, okay, you made my life easier.
I don't think you need to necessarily understand it unless you want to, benefit from investing in it or investing in the companies that are focused around it. I mean, nobody asks how the internet works anymore. Nobody asks how their Uber showed up. Right. I mean, look, in 2000, like 1999, 2000, everybody was talking about these protocols and how the internet worked. Nobody cares anymore. Things just work, right? Like you expect things to work now.
Yeah.
You can build stuff with AI. So I think to be able to, over time rebuild the pipes on which assets are moved globally is a fundamental change. Whether that makes a difference at the consumer level, it's not as sexy as like, hey, I hopped on, Claude or OpenAI and it built me a cool website in 5 seconds with, flashy, buttons and widgets and looks really cool. Like that doesn't exist. So, but what it is going to do, and I think that we're starting to see this percolate through, is there's been a huge focus on AI.
Yeah.
Where the AI and kind of blockchain technology can kind of come together and work well together is AI agents are going to need to interact and spend money, right? Like if you want them to do more, they're going to need, funds to be able to work with. And blockchain is something that they can interact with. It's programmable money. It is a perfect fit for AI agents. And we've seen Cloudflare even come out recently with, doing some work with Coinbase to be able to take, have agents pay with stable coins. And, that we're just starting to see, the tip of the iceberg on that. And I think if, the technology is there's a lot of use cases. It's going to be a lot of things that people don't think about or care about just behind the scenes. That's going to make the world and the economy better. And if we can get regulatory clarity in the U.S., it's gonna drive a lot of money, and it'll drive, hopefully, no guarantees, the price of Ethereum and the price of a lot of companies that are in that industry. So, that's kind of a hanging out there as a question mark as to I would say more not if but when.
Sure.
Hey, Charles, before we let you out of here today, can you talk a little bit about, where BTCS is headed the rest of 2026 and into 2027, which I'm sure you're already planning?
Yeah, so I couldn't, as much as the price of Ethereum has been in the doldrums for months now, I couldn't be more excited about the business. We really came out at the beginning of this year and said we're going to shift gears. Last year we were highly focused on revenue. We had we did about 16.5 million in revenue this year. We've changed that focus and said we care about revenue, but we care much more about gross profit and improving margins. And that's something, we did a great job in Q1. I can't speak to Q2 yet, obviously, because it's not out, but it's something that we're really focused on and we think will be, successful in delivering.
And look for BTCS soon to be the featured player in a Bizumentary here on the Big Biz Show. You'll see a lot more of Charles Allen, CEO, Chairman of the Board, BTCS Incorporated. All right, keep it here.